I'm very excited. Big video today. Big news coming out of T-Mobile. And the news is today that T-Mobile has officially rolled out its home internet pilot program. This is technically the first part of the home broadband endeavor that T-Mobile is going to be expanding upon once the T-Mobile and Sprint merger is approved. Of course, if the merger is approved, then they can proceed with the rest of the program. Now, what I'm going to do with today's video is I'm going to take a look at all of the key items that were identified in today's press release from John Legere and the rest of T-Mobile. The first thing is this pilot program is invite only. It is not open to the general public, and it's not something that you could just sign up for. The requirement has been set that you have to be a pre-existing T-Mobile customer, and you'll be receiving notification either by email or snail mail that you would be receiving the invite. T-Mobile's goal is to have this service available to 50,000 different subscribers through the end of this year here in 2019, which according to my math would put the population of people with this coverage at about 0.04% of the United States population. The next thing to consider is who is going to be getting this service, and it's really a focus of two types of customer. It's going to be those that are either underserved in terms of home internet provisions, or it's going to be available to those in rural communities. Another important component of this announcement is that this particular home broadband service is going to be completely done over the LTE network at T-Mobile. This is not going to be a separate network. This is going to be over T-Mobile's LTE network. In terms of speeds, we are expecting somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 megabits per second in terms of the actual performance. They are probably going to be doing some form of network management, and I think that's kind of left up in the air. We're not really sure what that's going to be like, but we do know that there aren't going to be any specific data caps or major forms of throttling involved. I believe it is going to be no throttle, and there isn't going to be any type of hard cap where they're going to cut you off and slow you down completely. For cost, we understand that it is now going to be costing $50 per month for the service. In terms of hardware, there's going to be no additional cost for the 4G LTE router that is required to operate the service. Also, in terms of setup, it is going to come with a self-installation kit, and the customer care at T-Mobile will guide folks through the entire setup and launch of this service. So what is T-Mobile's end game in all of this? What are they really trying to do? There's a few different angles to take. I think the first one is T-Mobile is trying to be a disruptor. They're trying to be a disruptor in home internet provisions, specifically because they know that this is a customer-unfriendly operation. We understand that home internet solutions aren't very kind to their customers and don't offer great value, especially in regions where it's very monopolized. They also want to expand the service to about 9.5 million people by the end of 2024. Very lofty expectations, but this does kind of get the ball rolling. And of course, in terms of performance, 50 megabits per second just isn't going to cut it. So the end game in terms of network performance is going to be to get to at least to 100 megabits per second and also be bolstered by 5G. 4G LTE just won't get the job done in terms of capacity and performance. And of course, in similar fashion to what T-Mobile is known to do, there are no operational costs other than the $50 per month. There are no taxes and fees that are not included, nothing hidden, and there's no cost to the hardware to get it installed and so forth. So very, very consumer friendly, very different from the types of bundles and services and fees that we see from big cable companies. Now let's talk limitations. There's obviously flaws all over this announcement. The first thing obviously is performance. How are they going to be able to allocate enough bandwidth to get consumers in a situation where the network can perform? There's obviously very, very strict limitations on how much spectrum is available in certain markets and what they can do with certain capacity. I mean, just think about the network limitations in terms of sharing all of this bandwidth with not just users that are using the same service as you in terms of the home internet, but also the wireless customers that are operating on smartphones, tablets, and other connected devices. And also the simple fact that this is invite only, I think kind of puts a damper on the announcement. And one last thing to cover is how does this implicate the merger? This move really is about the optics, and I'll explain what I mean by that statement. Number one, this shows that T-Mobile wants to introduce competition. Number two, it shows that T-Mobile wants to introduce and offer innovation within the industry, especially when talking big cable. Number three, they want to serve underserved areas and areas of rural where people don't really have options. Number four, it gives a customer-friendly approach and customer care option that customers usually don't have with big cable companies. And number five, I think this further justifies the case for making the merger happen, justifying the need for T-Mobile to join forces with Sprint. I think specifically this is going to highlight the need for spectrum in order to bolster the network and really get 5G going for customers across the nation for this service. And probably the biggest problem right now would be the fact that T-Mobile doesn't want to give up any concessions, and this type of a service is going to require getting everything they can from the Sprint merger. So here are my final takeaways from the entire collection of components from this announcement. This isn't commercial. This really is a pilot program, and it's more of a testing bed. It's not for the general consumer. This appears to actually probably be for political optics as much as it is actually a testing bed or a trial. It appears that they are trying to get in the good graces of the FCC and the DOJ in terms of optics, showing them that the merger would do good things for consumers in the long run. And I think specifically it's probably more about appeasing the DOJ. I think T-Mobile's good with the FCC, and that's something that I've talked about across many different videos in the past. And in terms of performance, I think this is kind of one of those things where it's almost all going to be about relativity. If you come from a place that has very fast home internet and you get a very good rate in terms of the cost and pricing, then maybe this really isn't attractive to you. But in some cases, people are paying very excessive amounts of money for very basic types of provisions, like maybe 20 to 30 megabits per second, and the cost and the value is just not there. This does create a competitor, and it would force other network providers, specifically big cable, to have to compete a little bit more and innovate a little bit more. So let me know in the comment section below if you agree with any of the topics and elements that I brought up at any point in the video. Of course, if you'd like to give your thoughts and opinions, it's always welcome, so drop me a line in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your ideas and kind of like how you perceive this particular announcement. I think it is important that we do understand where this announcement is coming from. It's coming at a time where the merger is seeking approval, and this does kind of help T-Mobile get into the good graces in terms of competition and how it's going to be helping consumers. So I think it was a motivational factor for T-Mobile to get this started now in terms of helping the merger proceed. So that's my take on it. You guys can give me yours in the comment section below. That'll do it for this video. Thank you all for tuning in. Much appreciated. If you could, please go ahead and hit the like button. Share the video to help the channel. It definitely gets the channel out there and helps it grow. Much appreciated. I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you again for tuning in. My name is Sneed from Sneed Mobile Tech, and I will see you guys on the next video.